Welcome to On the X. My guest today is Pat Flynn, entrepreneur, author, podcaster, and one of the most trusted voices in online business. After getting laid off from his job as an architect in 2008, Pat turned a career setback into an opportunity and built a platform that's helped millions of people do the same. He's the creator of Smart Passive Income, a resource that's become a go-to for entrepreneurs looking to build ethical, sustainable businesses. He's also the best-selling author of Let Go, Will It Fly, Superfans, and most recently, Lean Learning, which explores how to acquire skills quickly and effectively in a fast-changing world. Pat's podcasts, Smart Passive Income and Ask Pat, have racked up millions of downloads and feature honest, practical advice for navigating the realities of online business. His work has been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal, and his approach continues to shape how people learn, build, and grow. So here we go with Pat Flynn on the X. Kind of framing this up, just talk a little bit about what set you on this path originally, like to become an entrepreneur, because you had this, you were architect, that was going to be your thing, that was like your dream job, and then it wasn't, and you, like a lot of people out there, decided I'm going to become an entrepreneur. But it's still something that, look, there's a lot of people that are faced with a situation like this, but it still takes a whole lot of courage to do it, especially if you have family and you don't know how you're going to make money and everything. So what was that experience like for you? And what was, I guess, the forcing function that made you think, okay, I'm going to go this path. I'm not going to just go back into the corporate world, some place and get another job.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like I am now an entrepreneur after a certain situation. I got laid off in 2008 from my architecture job. It was a dream job. I was working in the restaurant industry as an architect, and it was awesome. And I lost my job in 2008, like many other people did. And I had no plan B because I had done everything the way I was supposed to leading up to that. I got perfect grades. I went to a great school, got my dream job from a relationship that I had, and it was just perfect. And then to get that all kind of swept out from under me in an instant was really difficult. I had moved back home with my parents right after getting engaged, had no money coming in. This was like my life was moving backwards. So the real force function there was like I was moving backwards and I was trying to start this family. This is not the direction I want to go. So that led me to eventually start making decisions that were outside of my comfort zone because I was putting myself in a situation to be as comfortable as possible. And here I was now in this new world where I didn't want to stay in it anymore. Again, I thought I was failing as a result. So it didn't happen right away, though. I kind of dipped my toe into it. It was actually thanks to another podcast that got me inspired. There was an interview on a show called Internet Business Mastery. There was a guy who was telling a story about how he's making 6 figures a year helping people pass the PM exam, the project management exam. And I was like, I don't know what this exam is, but I know that I've taken a number of exams trying to be an architect, and one of them in particular had very little information. And so I decided I was going to step forward and publish information about it. It's called the LEAD exam. Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, sort of a niche and a niche and a niche. And all throughout still, while building that website and trying to gain a following, which I eventually found, they all found me through Google and people were starting to talk about this resource. I was making no money from it. All the while, I was still going in looking for architecture jobs. I wasn't clicking yet that I was an entrepreneur. I was just trying to figure things out. So much so that I ended up one evening just in some ballroom getting presented about these amazing business opportunities, eventually finding out that it was an Amway talk that I was in. It was all spectacle, right? It was like, let's bring our triple, double, platinum, diamond members in. And they were like talking about how much freedom they had and how much money they had, not telling us what exactly they did. And I ended up at this like random person's apartment from this group. And they were like, here's what you need to do. You need to sell lotions to your family. And I'm like,
I'm laughing. Sorry, but I'm laughing more at this because my wife was an Amway person when we first met. It was Quick Star, I think was the name of it had evolved or whatever. But it was that kind of thing. Sorry to interrupt. It just makes me laugh. She was doing that thing, and I was kind of like, hey, I really like you, but I think this is kind of not what they're sort of purporting. And she took me to one of these conventions where they're all in this big room, and I just was like, I don't know what this thing is, but it just seems like a bunch of pomp and circumstance. Anyway, keep going.
It was absolutely that. And that's where I eventually found like, okay, I need to figure stuff out. And I found this podcast and I was building my website. And eventually I got involved in a mastermind group, a group of people who were also entrepreneurs who were much further ahead than I was, but they were very welcoming of me being the newbie. And I told them my situation. I said I had gotten laid off, started this website to help people pass this exam. and I have a bunch of people coming to the website, but I don't know what to do. Like, I don't feel qualified to sell anything. Like, I barely passed this exam, but I know about it. And they're like, well, you should probably publish a study guide, like an ebook. And I said, I don't know what an ebook is. So they taught me. And again, I'm just very newbie at this. And I talk about this in my book. I got so overwhelmed about the idea of selling something on this website. Like, I didn't feel qualified to do it. I didn't feel like I knew enough. I felt like people were going to refund anything I sold them. I didn't want to be one of those snake oil salesmen that was trying to sell me on riches and instant, money and all this stuff. So I was very hesitant to do this, but I was like, you know what? I think I have stuff that can help people. So I don't know how I'm going to sell this, but I need to write this thing first. So let me just write it. I'll figure out the rest later. So I spent about a month taking all my notes and everything that was on the website and packaging it into a PDF file. And I had 74 pages there ready to go. And I said, wow, okay, like now I really need to know how to sell this because I have it. I feel like I'm so close. So I went back to my mastermind group and I just started asking them questions like, okay, well, how do I sell something online? Oh, there's this tool where you can upload a PDF file and put it on your website, put a button on your website, and it automatically delivers it to people. I was like, no way, that's crazy. It took me 15 minutes to set up, and I had it ready. But I needed a sales page. I'd never written sales copy before. And of course, the old way I was taught to learn things was to then go to school. So I said, okay, well, I was looking up like copywriting school, how to be a good writer, and like trying to determine like how much money did I really need to spend to be a good writer so that I can create the sales page. And I went back to my mastermind group, and they said, well, okay, you are always looking for the hard way to do things. There's probably an easier way to do it, right? So one guy told me about a book called, it was called Moonlighting on the Internet by Yannick Silver. And this book was like 300 pages about how to make money on the internet. And he said, don't read the book. Just go to the back. There's an appendix in the back of the book that is a sales page that you can just Mad Lib style put in your product, your features and benefits in there and use that. And I was like, really? It's that easy? He's like, yeah. It's like people have done this before. They know what works and doesn't. Just use what works. So I did that, and that sales page alone had generated over the next 5 years $1.5 million for me in selling this PDF file. Not because I learned everything, but as I found the right resources from the right people at the right time when I needed it. And this is really what lean learning is about. It's not just in case learning, which is all the trap we're all in right now. It's absorbing information as if it's like a scarce food source, in case we never find it again. No, there's so much information out there. We're at a buffet line now. There's so much of it. We're getting force-fed. When you look up something on YouTube, not only are you seeing what you're looking up for, but every time you now log into YouTube, you're going to see more stuff that you didn't even know you needed because those algorithms are that good. So we now live and have to navigate this world that's so full of information and trust that we need to find not information just in case, but just in time. Knowing what you want to do, finding out what the next step is, finding one resource to help you with that next step, knowing that the next step will have its resources when you need them there. But it's just so hard to fight against that urge to learn like we learn in school, to try to pick up everything first before taking any action.
So let's get into the content here with the book specifically. Now, obviously, a lot of time has passed since that initial foray for you as an entrepreneur, and you've written other books, but this is your most recent one, which I got an advanced copy. I don't think it's even available yet, right? Or is it out now?
It just came out. Just came out. So
okay, so perfect timing. So it's now available at an online bookstore near you. But talk about those two things specifically, because like it's basically your first two chapters, but you sort of are self-admitted in the beginning of this, like, hey, I'll keep like trying to take on more information, and not, my instinct is not to act, but to just kind of keep doing that. So it seems to me there's kind of two things you talk about in the beginning here. One is, to your point, the overload of information that's being fed at you, and selecting the type of information that you want to learn about instead of just piecemealing and it's this, that, and oh, here's the latest shiny ball and look at that thing over there. What actually interests you? So figuring out that piece, but then forcing yourself to act at some point, right? Like I was actually thinking about this. I think we probably all know people or have friends of ours who they just keep getting degrees. I know people like this. It's like they've got a master's and they're going to get another master's and a PhD, which is great. Like that's fine. But I have one master's and I was kind of like, I don't want to just keep going to school for stuff. Like let's do stuff with this. So just talk about those two things and how you see it best to overcome those challenges in front of us.
Yeah, I mean, we're conditioned to absorb as much information as possible, right? We were taught that the more you know, the more successful you would be, the more powerful you could become. But we all have access to the same information across the board now. Like literally with AI and ChatGPT and Google, like we can all find all the same information. So it's not about the access to the information, right? Remember back in the day, if you had like an Encyclopedia Britannica in your home, this was before the internet days, you were smarter because you could afford information that other people couldn't. You were upper class because you had access to information that other people couldn't. Again, the playing field's level now. So we have to understand that it's not about just having access to information, which we all do. It's finding the right resources for the right reasons from the right people. And so how do we navigate this? First of all, we just have to unlearn that idea that we need everything. We need to know everything, right? And yes, it feels safer. It's almost like a false progress when you're learning, right? How many of us, when we're in the car, you have to put on a podcast. You have to put on an ebook. If you're not doing that, you're wasting your time. But here's the problem with that. In addition to getting too much information, you can get over-inspired. In the book, I talk about this idea that like because we're so connected, we're seeing so many other people do so many things, we get over-inspired. Inspiration, we think, is always good, but not always if you are now removing yourself from the things you've already committed to. When you say yes to something new, you're saying no to something else. And a lot of times we keep replacing the yeses with new yeses, and we're going nowhere. So there's a lot of things in the book that I talk about, like creating a force function, having specific deadlines or dates or accountability to make sure that you're actually getting up and doing the things that you say you're going to do, and having other people like mentors or colleagues kind of help you and hold you accountable to that. It's just, when I think about where my best creative ideas come from, there's a reason it's called shower thoughts, right? It's the only moment in the day that you literally can't do anything else but think.
Yeah.
Because every other part of the day, you are filling it with something. One thing that I've done lately that has helped me a lot, Chris, is when I'm driving, I don't put on anything. I don't even turn on the radio.
Yeah.
I'm raw dogging it in the car, as some would say.
Yeah.
And I get so many fun, creative, inspired ideas, not from new things, but from things I'm already doing to make the things that I'm already doing better. And it's just, we don't give ourselves that opportunity anymore. And so it's this idea of not FOMO, right? This fear of missing out. That's really what we're dealing with here. We like everybody's talking about this new thing. So I don't want to be left out. I want to absorb that too. But at what expense? Well, the things you've already committed to. There used to be a strategy to combat FOMO called JOMO, the joy of missing out. But I think that's false. That's just pretending. Like I'm not going to, of course I want to do the things that everybody else is doing. So what's actually the answer? The answer is the joy of opting out. It's realizing and admitting that those things are there. And yes, even admitting that you are compelled to absorb or consume whatever that is, but having the discipline to say, no, that's not for me right now. I'm going to now recommit to the things I've already said yes to. It's just like if you've ever watched Legally Blonde, I don't know if you're in that target audience, but
I'm probably not in the target demographic, but I have seen the movie.
Reese Witherspoon, or Elle as her character is, she's studying for the bar exam because her boyfriend went to Harvard and she's trying to get in. So she's studying for the bar exam. And like all of her frat and sorority friends are partying, and she's like disciplined enough to say, I know I want to party, but I have to study for this exam because this is important to me to get to Harvard to go see my boyfriend or my ex-boyfriend. Anyway, probably a terrible analogy, but you have to have that discipline based on what you want, and what the task at hand is right now. And then you find the resource to help you with that right now, trusting that by the time you need the next step, there will be resources for that. Yeah. Probably resources that are even more updated and better than if you were to just absorb them now, just in case. The idea of that force function is really key to helping you start moving, though, right? Having a date for something, having something that's going to, like, pretty much, you have no choice. Putting yourself in a higher pressure situation. For me, when learning how to speak, it was signing up for my first talk, knowing that date was coming. I only could give myself so much time to learn before I had to finally put things onto paper and finally figure this out, right? It's Parkinson's law. However long enough you give yourself, you're going to fill it with that much time. So you might as well use time as an advantage, as a tool for you. by shortening the amount of time that you have to do something. You will figure it out if you give yourself that deadline, and you're eventually going to end up on stage speaking to people. Or, Tim Ferriss, right? He had a show on Apple TV for a while where he was essentially using what we're talking about here to help him learn all kinds of different things much, much faster, to speed skill acquisition, to speed acquire new skills. In one of the first episodes, he was trying to learn how to speak Tagalog, which is the Filipino language. I'm half Filipino myself, so this was a very interesting show for me, episode. And so what he did was he scheduled an interview with a Filipino news station in like a month's time. He was going to be asked to speak in Tagalog in a month's time, no matter what. So he felt driven and compelled and really wanted to make sure he at least didn't fumble. And he only learned the words that he needed to know for the type of interview, which had him going. And then, of course, he also took it one step further and lived with a Filipino family that only spoke Filipino for that time to help him speed run that skill again. That's going to be huge. So creating those force functions. And then one thing I love to do is to break up whatever it is that we're learning into much, much smaller pieces, and then hyper-focus for small periods of time on just that little micro moment alone, or that micro thing. So in speaking, it might be just how to start a presentation, or what do I do with my hands, and just kind of learning from everything. I watch 100 TED Talks, but only to look at what everybody's hands are doing. So I could absorb that and learn that and micro-master that. I had a friend who is an ultra-marathon runner. These guys are insane. They run like 50 miles a day or something stupid like that. I could never. But I called him one day and I was like, what are you up to? And he said he had a film crew at his house to slow motion record the way his foot hit the ground. That's all that he hired this crew. I mean, he spent a lot of money to do it because these cameras are, one frame per whatever, are ridiculous. But he was studying the angle of attack on the ground and where his forces were going, all this crazy stuff, just so he could get a little bit more energy out of every stride. But when you take that little tiny moment across 50,000 steps, it adds up to a lot. And you can get a lot of time back, and sort of that's how you kind of take this thing that you've started and now master it. So I'll stop there because I have a lot to say about all these kinds of things.
I mean, this is you're right. I want to hit all these points that are in your book individually. So a couple things. First of all, I bet there are people who listen to podcasts in showers. I bet there are folks out there that still try to fill up their time in the shower with some kind of waterproof radio or whatever that's broadcast the podcast.
And then they don't have shower thoughts.
Yeah, true.
They're gone.
But so to that point, yes, I'm huge on this, and some of the kind of content I put out individually. This is a big thing for me, which is I kind of do things around kind of mental fitness. And for me, the first step always is you have to create mental space. And we don't have any mental space these days. And I think of it in essentially 3 steps. There's sort of 2 at the beginning and then 1 more. The first 2 are stop multitasking. Stop trying to multitask. Single task. Whatever you're doing, just focus on that one thing and that's it. And the other one is slow down. You can't do everything at 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time. We have no space to get anything truly done if we're always trying to go 100 miles an hour. Now, granted, sometimes you have to be in a rush. I get that. But even walking to the next room, eating, any of these things, just slow them down because you're just ramping your sort of nervous system up in a way that's unnecessary. And then the next one is exactly kind of what you're saying about the raw dog is do nothing. Whether it's sitting in a chair for 5 minutes and just doing nothing, or I love that. I use that as same example. Hey, the next 30-minute drive you have, don't listen to anything. Just turn all that stuff off and just see what your mind does in that 30 minutes. And you'd be surprised how many problems you'll solve, how much inspiration will come to you. But we don't allow ourselves to do that anymore. So I think that's super great advice. I want to wind it back, though, to the sort of selecting the path, because I think there's a lot of people that find themselves kind of wanting to do what you're talking about, but they don't even know what they want to do necessarily. Maybe they've been in a job or a career field for a really long time. They know, I want to break out of this. I want to do my own thing. But they're sort of like, I guess I have some expertise here. I know some things about this other thing. Which direction do I go? Because you talk about this sort of inspiration matrix idea in the book. Yeah. And so maybe dive into that and help people chart a path to finding something that really lights them up that they might turn into a business, and how they might figure that out for themselves.
Sure. I mean, there is a matrix, sort of a quadrant, if you will, inside the book that I talk about, where there's certain elements of where we put our time and attention and just making sure that things are distributed properly, right? So the number one thing I find with a lot of my students, entrepreneurs, is they have zero in their recreational quadrant, meaning they have zero hobbies because they're so honed in on what it is that they're doing. They have, their business and career, and it's like they're not giving themselves similarly time and space to breathe from that. It's important to have a hobby for longevity, for breathing space, to mentally check out so that you can check back in later and usually check in. But, it's a waste of time. I could be writing emails or doing something instead. No, it's just like studying. You have to go to sleep to absorb all this stuff, or else it's just going to come out the other ear right after you hear it into the first one. So that's really important. Number one, making sure you have something that is yours, that has no other objective other than to just enjoy life in some way, shape, or form, right? For many people, it's gardening. For me, for a while, it was that. Right now, it's fishing for me, which is huge. Gets me outdoors, gets me to bond with my son and daughter, and that's been really key. Other parts of this matrix are things that like you just hate to do, but you have to do. You just have to realize that those things are going to be there, and that's okay. You just kind of like, you accept that, and that's okay. Like taxes or whatever, like all there's that quadrant. The two other quadrants are really important. One of them being what I like to call junk sparks. This is where you can get most of your time back and most of your energy back, because a lot of us are sparked. We get inspired. An inspiration is a spark to then potentially explore something else. But when you have so many of them, it's just energy that's wasted, because you're not able to divert that energy into your passion pursuit, the one spark that is now something you want to explore. So when it comes to deciding what to do, you want to pay attention to where your excitement is, and it can be across many different things. But then you eventually have to pick one and give it a trial run. And that's what I love about this, giving yourself a certain number of days to remove everything else for a while and just focus on this, knowing that there's an endpoint at which you will then determine whether or not you want to stop or continue. And that's so freeing to understand that it's not necessarily a permanent decision. A lot of people struggle to make a decision because it feels permanent. I think Dan and Chip Heath wrote about this in their book, Decisive, how we as humans just have a binary approach to everything. It's either an all-in or not at all situation, where there's a million different options in the middle between those that might be a good fit for you. You might be able to potentially dip your toe in the water a little bit before trying something. When it comes to starting a business especially, I try to make it as simple as possible for people. So I have this thing that can be done on the side that I'll share here called the 1-1-1 method. And that means inside of a particular interest or community or market that you might have an inclination to explore, you find one person, help them, or you find one problem that one person has, and you help them get one result. You don't need a website or any of this stuff to do that. Just find one person who has one problem and help them get one result, and just see if you can do that. And just that experiment alone, that exercise, will teach you a number of things. The first part, well, where do these people exist? Where do they go? How can I find them? You're going to need to know that anyway if you're going to build something big. So let's start small and find just one person. Where do they congregate? Online, offline, wherever. See if you can connect with one person. And then it's an exercise of learning how to figure out what a person might be going through, what their struggles are, because that's what any good business or entrepreneur does. They solve problems. So we're now in the sort of world of finding out how to learn what these problems are and how they talk about them and how you can understand them. And then finding the solution, of course, to help them through that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through personal calls or DMs or text messages, or, you don't have to build a course yet, right? A lot of people ask me, Pat, should I build an online course or should I, start an agency? How would you even know what the answer is to that unless you know who it is that you're serving, which is why we're going back to the 1-1-1. And something amazing happens when you get a person a result. Yes, you now have like a testimonial and you can use that for case studies or whatever if you want to amplify this thing and scale it. Cool. You unlock the confidence that what you want to do is working. And that is huge, because a lot of people who start a business by just building, creating the business cards and putting up the website and creating the socials, when it finally comes to actually do business and sell something, you start questioning, I don't know if this is going to work. What if you tried to find out that answer first and then built the thing versus building the thing and then finding out if it worked, right? So this is like a validation process. Something else could happen. You go through this process and you absolutely hate it. You're like, I don't like this group of people very much like I thought I was. I'm not this isn't going to be for me. I just know that. How wonderful it is to know that now versus after you spend all this time and money climbing this ladder that ends up becoming the wrong ladder for you.
Right.
I run an exercise, and I do talk about this in this book as well, which can help with decision making, is if you have multiple options, hypothetically choose one, go into your metaphorical DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future, go 88 miles per hour, 1 year into the future. That choice worked out for you, whatever that choice is. Don't worry about how that worked out. It's just worked out. What is life like? Who are you talking to? What's your day like? Tell me about how you're feeling every day you wake up. What are you looking forward to in life? What do you regret? Come back to today, do that same experiment with option 2, option 3, option 4. Just that alone, I've seen some people cry in the middle of this experiment when I've run it with them because they are going down this path and they go into the future and they're like, oh my gosh, even if it worked out, I wouldn't be happy here.
Right.
And they're like, I'm going down the wrong road. And I'm just like, okay, first of all, what a blessing that you figured this out before you actually did go down that road. Then they feel lost, and I'm like, okay, let's run this experiment with some other options that you have, or what things light you up. Let's follow that into different sort of timelines and see where that could end up until we find a space that we like. And then we can now build the delta in between today and a year from now or 5 years from now, whatever.
Where do you think that comes from, by the way? Like when people think they want to go a direction and they do that experiment on themselves and they realize, no, that's not why do you think that is? Is it because they were chasing the wrong metric? They're just like about the money?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've fallen down that trap of chasing money, and I built a software that completely bombed because I was so secretive of it. I didn't want to share it with anybody.
You're talking about in the book.
Yeah, it was a WordPress plugin, and all my buddies started promoting WordPress plugins and making lots of money. So of course I had the dollar signs coming out of my eyes, and I'm like, I'm going to build one too. And it completely failed because I was building it for money, not for people. If I built it for solving a problem, I probably would have been able to understand that, well, this idea wasn't that great to begin with, versus keeping it secret and then announcing to the world this thing that was crappy. So money, yes, kind of being drawn for that reason can be, not to say making money is bad, it's good. But if it is a result of the service that you provide to your audience or the product that you're providing. For me, in the world of architecture, and not knowing that this entrepreneurial space existed, I mean, a lot of that path was not determined by me. It was determined by society and what everybody said I should do, and my parents. To their credit, they've supported me in this pivot into entrepreneurship. Although when I got laid off, my dad's first response was, "Oh, this is a good opportunity for you to get your master's degree, like just to get it." And again, I'm like,
yeah.
I did everything I was supposed to, and I still, like, what's to say I go get a master's degree and I'm gonna end up where I am, versus let me take control. And if I fail, I want it to be because it's my own fault, not because of these things that I can't control. So I think a lot of it comes from expectations from others, and it's not until you unautomate everything, you kind of wake up, or metaphorically unplug from the matrix, if you will, just for a sec, to examine who you are and where you want to go. And checking in with yourself every so often to do that is important, right? I call that a why-focused introspection, or a Wi-Fi, because if you don't have Wi-Fi, you're lagging. That's a stupid dad joke I make in the book. But now you won't forget it. And it's important. It's important to check in with yourself because you change. People around you change. The environment changes. Macroeconomic moments change. And so to check in with yourself to say, is this path that I chose prior still the path I want to be on? Maybe, maybe not. And having honest conversations about that with you and the people around you who matter in relation to that is key. And so again, I think the big principle here is just live consciously, right? Like, just know where you're putting your time, and if that action that you're taking doesn't support where you want to go, then why are we doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the lesson there that you talked about in the beginning of, you don't have to be tied to a path. If you pick it and you go after it and it doesn't work out, you can say, nope, this isn't working. I'm going to do something else. I think it's
not a waste. You're learning.
Right. And it's but it is one of those things that I think we struggle with still to this day. I mean, there's certainly this carryover from years ago, decades ago, where people, generally speaking, grew up and did a job. They had a career that they were part of, or at least a lot of society. And we bake that into the culture of education as well. We ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. Or what
I
do you
hate
want to
that
do when
question,
you grow
dude.
up? Like what's the one thing that you want to grow up and do? And I mean, okay, it's not to say that that's wrong. There are some people that grow up and they want to be one thing and they're very happy doing that one thing, but that doesn't need to be the case. And it's funny, as a parent now, where I have my oldest is now in college, I'm really trying to say, because he's very passionate about music, he's a music major and that's what he wants to go do. And I'm like, that is awesome, man. But if at some point you decide you don't want to do that, that's okay too. Like, you do
Yeah.
not have to
Amen.
feel like this has to be your thing for the rest of your life. I think my father, one of his sayings, like his dad saying, so to speak, was, I never figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And he always had different, I don't even know what he was doing half the time, but it was a really wise thing to impart on me that, okay, you can change careers, you can do something else. Even if you committed a lot of time to something, it's like, well, that doesn't work, go do something else.
Yeah.
I just think that's such a valuable lesson for people, and it's
It
hard.
is. I think that's such an unfair question to ask a kid, because how in the world would they even know what options they have available to them?
I know.
How are they going to know what the next 20 years are going to look like? Things are changing so fast. And,
Totally.
it's just like, and I know a number of friends who've had kids who studied coding and now they're obsolete,
Yep.
right? And now it's like, I grew up to be a coder, I am now lost, versus I'm a problem solver and I know technology. Well, you can still be useful if you think about it that way.
Yes.
That's why the question that I often ask kids is not, what do you want to be when you grow up? But it's, what do you like to do? Or what lights you up? And that's such a fun question to ask, because, I mean, they might like Pokemon. Cool. I can tell that you are a collector and you have a cool imagination and like all these other things about you that could be so useful in so many different careers. But, it's like, I go to these networking functions at these events I go to, and it's always like, so what do you do? Or like what's your position? That's like
Right.
now an identifier of who you are. And I would love to get away from that. I'd much rather be interested in what a person's hobbies are. That tells me more about them than the job that maybe somebody else told them they should do, or that they have to do right now because of circumstances, whatever. But I want to know the person. The more people to people stuff that happens, the more we are to still remain human.
Yeah.
And in this world of AI, that everything is so commoditized now, everything is so it just sounds the same. The more you can bring your personality to the game, the more likely you are to still, connect and build real relationships and find yourself in the world. Things are changing fast. So this is why I think this book, even though I started it 4 years ago, is so timely right now with information and where it's at and just how fast everything's moving.
Yeah. It's for just to stick on that point about kids. I think it's also that question, especially as kids get into like adolescents and teenagers. I think we sometimes focus too much on career and that the what do you want to be when you grow up, and not who do you want to be. And I think it's can be a lot more important to sit them down, not necessarily a teacher, but as a parent, and be like, who do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Not what do you want to do, but exactly. What are your values? What matters to you? What difference do you want to make in the world? That kind of thing. I just think can be a much more insightful question for them to ask themselves. That, I don't know, some of us, I don't think we ask that until much later in life. And then we're
No. I mean, I didn't even question that until I got laid off.
Yeah, right.
Like, who am I really here if I'm not? Because I mean, once I was no longer an architect, I wasn't me anymore, and that kind of sucks because I didn't even have any control over that. So now, who I am is now based on what other people are doing or what other things are happening. That's a very dangerous place to live, because you are no longer in control.
Yeah.
Versus if you know your values and kind of your mission in life, you can put that anywhere and you're still going to remain the same, whether you are an entrepreneur or not, or an architect or a firefighter, whatever the case may be, wherever your energy wants to go. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son, so I'm right there with starting to have those kinds of conversations, and it's really neat. My son rolls his eye because I have a saying that I implore to them all the time, and at least because I know he's rolling his eyes, he's heard it and he knows it. It's you can have everything in life you want so long as you help other people get what they want.
Oh,
Which
that's a
is
good
Zig
one. I
Ziglar
like
quote.
that.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
I've
steal
lived by
that.
that. Yeah, that's credit to Zig Ziglar, and that is how I live. That is how I show up in the world as a business owner. It's how I show up as a parent, and the kind of sort of value and lesson that I'm trying to teach my kids.
So talk about that then. I mean, that's kind of the next thing in the book is mentors and champions. You talk about champions, people that can help you along the way in this entrepreneurial journey. Talk about that, the importance of that, what that should look like, and how we select it too. I think this is something that maybe you might be lucky and you just end up with a mentor that falls in your lap, that it's like, oh, this person has always been there. And certainly we have our parents, or we might have our parents still around to help that kind of thing. But sometimes we might need to find somebody that can steer us in the right direction and help us kind of get on the right path. And how do we do that? And how do we, to the point of lean learning, do it in a selective way where we don't end up with 50 mentors too?
Right. Right. I mean, just understanding that if you had 50 mentors, you'd have 51 like different variations of how to do something. So you need to find the one person. If you are going to select a mentor, the one person that you are going to commit to learning from for a period of time. And you know, it could be a trial period, or you just, it's a vibe check for a while. I think it's important to experiment. You're not going to always land on the right person right away, but it could also be just an exploration of different inputs until you find the one that you feel a vibe with, that you can go deeper with. And there's a lot of people for a lot of different kinds of learning styles. And just because your friend says to follow Tony Robbins or whatever doesn't mean you have to too, right? You got to know the kind of person and the values that you have. And that aligns very much with what we just talked about in terms of who you'd like to open up mentorship from, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't even have to be a mentor that kind of takes you under their wing. It could be a person who's an example. For example, I have a virtual mentor. His name's Michael Hyatt. I have gotten to know him, but he's sort of a leader of leaders, and I admire him because he's a little bit older in life, but he has a successful business. But more than that, he's been able to integrate his family into his life in his business in a way that brings them closer together. And that I admire so much. And I'm learning a lot from him and his example by just how he shows up and how he brings himself to the world. And I'm picking up on those notes. And so that's been really great because he's living a life that I want and see 20 years from now. You know, you want to pick your mentors who are living the life you want to have as well. There are three kinds of people to connect with. And the big lesson here is you just can't do this alone. I thought I could be an entrepreneur on my own, and I thought if I could go through life more of a lone wolf and you know, I was maybe too prideful or just didn't think other people could have, you know, things to add that would help me. But that's just stupid. There are so many other people out there in this world who, with you guys can work together and collaborate and be better, right? 1 + 1 = 3. And in this world, I see it as a world of abundance where we're not at a poker table where, Chris, if you're winning, that means I'm losing. And if I'm winning, that means you're losing. We can win together. Like magical chips will appear if we put our heads together and combine to create something special for the world. That's how I see it. But there's three kinds of people you can connect with that are important to have as champions in your life, people who will kind of be there and root for you in different kinds of ways, right? You have your friends and family. These are your emotional champions, people who might not understand exactly what you're doing. I mean, my wife, when I start talking business, like I could see her eyes glaze over a little bit. She's just not into that world. But when I'm struggling or stressing over something, she'll be there emotionally to help and support. And that's key. She was the big reason why I was able to find my way into success as an entrepreneur, because when I got let go, she was there for me as a fiance and always said that she would be there for me no matter what. And that was huge. So whether that's friends or family, that's important. Then you have your peer group and your colleagues. These are the people who are kind of in it with you, kind of going through the same battles that you are and have the same challenges, or maybe just a few steps ahead or a few steps behind. And you can kind of work collaboratively with these people. These are the people who can hold you accountable. They are there with you. It's like your gym partner. It's easier to get up in the morning to go to the gym if you know somebody else is going to be right there alongside you, or they'll text you if you're late, and you're going to kind of help each other out. These are the people who share amongst each other to help each other grow. This is where mastermind groups come from, or brain trusts, you know, nights of the round table where nobody's really at the head, but you're kind of all working together for the greater good. And then you have your mentors, both virtual mentors or personal mentors like we were talking about. And these are the people who could potentially take you under their wing, who will look out for you, who have gone down that path that you are going down now, who have made those mistakes before, who are there to be brutally honest with you when you need it. That's probably where you can get the most help, is for people who are able to see things that maybe you can't see, or maybe even don't want to hear. You can't read the label when you're inside the bottle, so you need these people on the outside to tell you like it is sometimes. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for some of the harsh truths that I got from others. For that's for sure. And I'm very much grateful for those people in my life. So those are the kinds of people that you need around you, and be selective. I think that's key too. I mean, if you have too wide range of input and support, then you're going to get a wide range of different ideas and values kind of mixed all into each other, versus here's the one person who I admire who's teaching this stuff, who I'm going to learn from, and I'm going to follow their path. And I might insert other moments here and there from other people, but generally speaking, this is the path I'm taking. They have the machete. They've gone through the jungle already. You're just kind of following closely behind them.
Yeah. What about if there's someone like that who, like, do you ever recommend someone who's, I guess, kind of famous or whatever, trying to reach out to that person and be like, I really want you to mentor me personally? Or is that something that, you don't need to do that? You just kind of like follow along with them. Is there a benefit to that?
I mean, I have once been that person, and I am on the receiving end of that now. I get emails literally every day, DMs like, can you help me? Can you mentor me?
I'm sure you do.
And if that is the first thing you ask me before we even chat, then the answer is likely going to be no.
Right.
I have no idea who you are. I'm not just going to say yes to everybody. We need to learn about each other first, or I need to know a bit about you. And with so many incoming messages every day, the answer is likely going to be no. But there is something to be said for persistence, but not annoying persistence, but showing up in a way that matters and maybe even provides some value back to me or the celebrity first. There's a person I know, his name is Brian. He put himself on the map in the entrepreneurial space, not by asking to connect with these bigger celebrities, but by showing up for them first. He actually became sort of a star student for them. So before asking for mentorship directly, he was demonstrating that Brian Harris is his name. He was in a community with a YouTuber and a author named Noah Kagan, and he was demonstrating that he was taking these learnings and he was trying his best to show that he was absorbing this material and taking action on it, and he became very successful. So much so that Noah ended up using Brian as a case study, as a successful student of his, sort of a star student, and as a result, they built a relationship together, right? Because there was value in what Brian was doing. He was showing Noah and everybody else around him in his community that his stuff was working. That's of value to the celebrity or the creator. So now the creator's like, hey, let me take you out to dinner. Let's like talk a little bit more. How can I help you? All these other kinds of things, right? The way to success in relationships is to stop trying to be so interesting and start getting interested. That's what my mentor told me. One of my mentors, James Schramko. And it brings me back to Tim Ferriss, who we talked about earlier. I studied a little bit about how he got his start, because he kind of came out of nowhere and wrote this book called The 4-Hour Workweek, right? And you're like, how did that happen? I was so curious. And I eventually found out. He went to as many business and blogging conferences as he could around the time. There were a ton of them. And he went in with the sole goal of trying to learn as much as he could about all the people who were on the stages there. So what are you working on? How are you doing this? Asking so many questions, getting so interested in what these people at these events were doing, never talking about his own stuff. He got so interested and into these circles by just being so curious and trying to help out and provide value in the way that he could, that eventually these people would say, well, Tim, like, you've been asking me questions all this whole time. What are you up to? Oh, by the way, I have this book I've been working on. It's called this. And of course, the book itself is very hooky, and the title is like, oh, whoa, what? Like, really? You ran these experiments? Like, tell me more. Tell me, you should come on my podcast. You should. That's how he got his start, by being so interested first in what everybody else was doing. I mean, think about it from a dating perspective. If you're on a blind date or first date with somebody, if you just talk about yourself the whole time or ask for stuff, like, goodbye, I'm never going to talk to you again, versus, you want the guy or the gal on the other end who's just so curious about what you're doing. Tell me more about, like, when you used to row. You used to row at Cal? Really? What was that like? And now I'm like, it's not even transactional anymore. We're just having a conversation. Right. So anyway, that's just
Yeah.
relationship building 101,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, I think that characteristic, curiosity, is one of the best characteristics you can have your entire life in any
Oh, I mean,
field,
amen to that.
right? Like, I
Amen
mean,
to that. Yet we are so we're like when we start asking why as a kid, like why? Because we're curious. Why this? Why
yeah,
this? Your parents are like, shut up. Like stop asking me questions.
yeah, yeah,
And as adults, we don't have that curiosity anymore. So I agree
yeah.
with you 100%.
Well, and there certainly, I mean, the the most wise people are the people that keep asking questions about things, that realize they don't know everything, and they may be the smartest person in the room, but they're still interested in everything, and that's what makes them the wisest person, I think, or at least part of it. It's just, it's such an important characteristic, and I completely agree with you on that. I want to get back to another thing you were talking about before, the whole kind of micro mastery thing, and you pair this up with quantum leaps in the book. Just an example from my own experience, because it ties into something you talked about with hobbies. This is something that so my hobbies are, generally speaking, musical instruments outside of just exercise and working out. Played guitar for 30 plus years. I played piano now for 5, 6, something like that. So much better guitar player than piano player. But I try to practice almost every day, and I set a timer on that, and I track it and all of that. But especially with, as I kind of got more into making that a routine, I would realize that there were things that I was trying to learn where I was just like doing over and over and over again, and it wasn't really getting any better. It just felt like, okay, there's parts of this that I can do, but there's parts that I can't, and I still am not getting any better on that. And I watched some videos about, hey, improving your practice routine kind of thing, and it basically came down to really diving into the thing you're not doing well. Like, get very, very specific on it. So if I'm trying to learn a guitar solo and it's like I can do 90% of it, but there's this little lick in there or something that I keep struggling with, stop playing the other 90% of the solo. Just play that part and get even more detailed on it. It's like, what in this, where exactly are you getting stuck? And I realized I wasn't paying attention to that. I was just kind of like, oh, this is hard, I'm just going to keep trying to do it. Not realizing why is it hard? What part of it? And it would usually be like the tiniest thing. It would be like one small string roll with my, from this string to this string on my index finger. That's the part that's tripping me up. It's that little bit. So focus on that and really work on that. And that's made a huge difference in my, getting more cognizant of where I'm getting stuck, but then being way more effective in what I'm practicing, which is basically what you're talking about here with the micromaster stuff.
I mean, that's funny you mentioned that, because my daughter is a piano player, and when we go tell her to practice, we hear her, because she's in the other room in the piano, and she usually just plays the songs from start to finish for practice. And we're just like, that's not practice.
Right.
You're just running through start to finish, and what are the parts that you're messing up on? Focus on those. It's just like, so I'm a big musician. I was in band for several years, did drum corps, all the things as a trumpet player. And if you think about the way that a conductor in the band works with their band, they don't get better by just playing the songs literally over and over again. Right. There might be a part in the middle that the trombones have a hard time with. Okay, everybody sit tight. Trombones, you and I, we're going to work together for the next 10 minutes here. And you might even get to the point where you're working on with the individual on a specific run until they get it. And then you just micromanage that, focus on it, and boom, now it's integrated. Now let's move on to the next part that didn't work. Right. And now it's just there, right? And now it's absorbed into the whole. That works really, really well for learning. So in whatever it is that you're trying to master, it's not necessarily just putting more effort into it that's going to do it. It's understanding what components make this up and which parts you're struggling with, and being okay with just focusing on that. And it's repetition, yes, of those little micro moments that then add up to the big thing. The other thing that something came to mind, and it's a little bit on the lines of a force function too, but a little bit micro mastery as well. There's and this is related to one of my hobbies is fishing. There's a particular lure that is like the dream lure for people to use when they're bass fishing, and that's called the jig. It's like a larger hook with a skirt on it, and you can usually get a lot bigger fish because it's a much bigger bait, but it's harder to fish with. It takes some skill, it takes some patience, and there's other baits that you can use to catch fish faster. And I've always wanted to learn how to fish with a jig. So what I would do is, because I was like, I want to learn how to fish with a jig today. Okay. So I'd be on a boat, put on a jig, cast it out. 15 minutes later, get no bites, and say, yep, okay, I'm just gonna go back to old reliable because this is not working, right? And I would do that, and I'd catch fish on old reliable, my drop shot rig, and pretty much just kind of prove to myself that, yeah, see, it's just, I'm never gonna be a jig fisherman. So because I wanted to learn so badly, though, I created a force function for myself, and I just wanted to micromaster just the jigs. So I went out on a boat one day and took only jigs with me. Literally nothing else on the boat except jigs that I could use. So again, I tie on a jig, cast it out. 15 minutes later, I get no bites. So my mind's like, okay, let me tie on something else. Oh, wait, I can't. I literally am forced to only fish with this jig. And I fished it for hours and I got no bites until finally in the later afternoon, I got a bite. And just even having a bite unlocked for me that, wow, this is actually possible. It's working. And eventually I caught one fish by the end of the day, and now it's my go-to bait, and I've caught my record fish on jigs simply because I struggled for a little bit. I let myself be okay with struggling for a little bit so that I could get a lot of it back. And that's the thing that we tend to avoid doing. We don't put ourselves in that uncomfort area when micro mastering the guitar lick, because that like little string thing that you're trying to do is hard, and the rest of the song sounds much cooler, but like you have to nail this. So let's get uncomfortable and boring for a moment.
Yeah.
We don't want, we live in the world where we're not okay with being bored anymore. That's something that I'm so grateful that my wife taught my kids, is like, just be bored. Like, let them be bored.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I know.
So,
It's like when they go, I'm bored. If you ever get that, it's like, awesome. Good. Be bored for a little bit. That's important.
Yeah.
I was bored a lot as a kid. A lot.
Same. Except yet we have all these things to fill in that time with, and right? So, anyway, and then you mentioned quantum leaps.
Yeah, talk about quantum leaps, yeah.
Which I tell the story about rowing, and if you're a rower, you know this, but if you're not, you're rowing on the boat, usually with 7 other people, plus a coxswain, the person who yells the commands. And inside of rowing, when you want to go faster for a period of time and have a burst of energy and, pass the boat next to you, you do what's called a power 10. Yep. And that's for 10 strokes and 10 strokes alone. You have all the rowers sort of like give it your all for just 10 strokes. You can find additional energy for just 10 strokes. And then you usually see that boat like fly. Right. And there's a lot of psychology, because then the next boat next to you will do a power 10. And it's like, well, you can only do so many of them before you die out. So you have to like plan them well. Because if you did a power 100 all the way through, you die.
Right.
And if you just coasted, you're going to lose. And when you're trying to learn something, and sometimes it requires a moment in time where you put a lot of additional energy in, knowing that there's an end date, but you put everything you can into it during that time. So a practical example in the world of learning might be something like a hackathon. A hackathon is a version of a power 10 in rowing, where for 24 hours, this coder crew is going to like pizza, monsters, and Red Bulls all night long to code something amazing that didn't exist the day before, because it's 24 hours. Maybe it's a competition, I don't know, but it's a moment in time that requires additional energy and effort that can help you get so much gain compared to if you were to just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to chip away at it every day. And so as a podcaster, for example, a Power 10 version of a podcast might be, if you podcast every single week, great. That's your rhythm. That's your kind of rowing rhythm. But October 1st, we're going to have Marketing Week on the Pat Flynn podcast, where every day for 1 week and 1 week alone, 7 days straight, there's going to be a new podcast with a new marketer that I'm going to talk to about new strategies that are working into the 2026 year. So get ready for it. Sign up for it. You're going to get all the info. It's heightened energy. Yes, it's going to require more work and more booking and scheduling and interviews like this. But hey, I'm going to do that for a short period of time so I can get some major gains when now I start ranking in Google in Apple, because there's so many downloads happening this week compared to others and everybody else. That's a version of a Power 10. And it's one of my favorite ways to just kind of break through any ceilings that you might be coming across. Or if you feel like you're like in a plateau somewhere, find your version of a Power 10 to just like drill into something to break through.
Yeah. I love that you brought that analogy up in the book too, because it's something I think I'd kind of forgotten about, or I just hadn't thought about in a really long time. And I obviously come from a rowing background. I was like, oh yeah, Power 10. Yep. I remember doing those. That's a really good analogy to bring into like other spaces in life. We're at an hour. Do you have to go? You got a hard stop?
Fairly soon. I can send a message to my next contact and let them wait 5 minutes
Okay.
if you want to wind down.
Yeah, just real quick. Well, because I said I was going to talk about, just talk real quick about the Pokemon YouTube channel as an aside, because you talk in there too. I don't know if it's this channel you were talking about or another channel where I've talked to other YouTubers and I have friends like John Allen, who's Mr. Ballin, who's got 10 million subscribers or whatever he has on YouTube now, who they basically, like you, is like, I'm just going to go sort of Power 10 style. I'm going to go full throttle on YouTube and just create until something kind of goes, and give it all of that. And if nothing happens after 30 days, 60 days, okay, it's not worth it. But if we get a bite and this gets some momentum, we're going to keep going. So yeah, just talk about that, your interest there and building that channel and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I created 2 channels. These are...
Sorry, 2. Yep.
I'll share kind of both in different ways, but the first, they're all about Pokemon. I started getting into Pokemon, which, if you don't know what that is, these are these like creatures that you can find in this world. I mean, it's like an anime that dates back to the 90s, and it's a card game and all this stuff. So I'm talking about the cards specifically. My kids and I got into that in 2020 during COVID. We got into collecting Pokemon cards, and it was just so fascinating. I grew up playing Magic: The Gathering, so I knew about the mechanics of the game and kind of what it was like. But I always thought Pokemon was for little kids, and here I am now with like 2 channels with millions of subscribers.
You are a better parent than I am in this regard, then, because my kids are all into it and I know nothing about it. So
oh, that's okay. There is a lot to learn, I will say. But I didn't start a YouTube channel right away. I dove into this community, became a part of it, learned about who the people were, very much like I was talking about earlier, the 1-1-1 strategy. I just kind of dove into just who these people were. And I soon discovered that there were no creators really telling good stories and creating good videos. It was mostly people showing up on camera, opening packs. The benefit of a pack of Pokemon is there is built-in mystery into that pack, which is good for retention for videos. So that's kind of cool. But more than that, nobody was just telling any good stories. And being on YouTube since 2009 in the entrepreneurial world, I knew I could bring something new to this. So started creating videos. And, first they were like boxes that I'd buy on eBay, and I'd kind of open them and show the trash usually that was inside, and kind of these kinds of things. And over time I started to learn from the retention graphs. For example, one of the mystery boxes I bought from eBay, there was a moment in time in the retention graph on YouTube where it was flat for 5 minutes straight. And I had never seen that. Usually it's a slow decline. It was flat for 5 minutes. And I was like, what is going on there? So I go back to that video. It's where in one of these boxes I bought, there was a binder. And there was a binder that somebody had made that I bought from them. And it was just really interesting, I guess, for the viewers to see how this person decided to organize their collection and what was inside. Every page was a new surprise. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. What if I did a video where I just bought somebody's binder and that was the video? That video exploded. And I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for the retention graph and what I learned from there.
There you go.
And then I did another experimental video with my son where he like challenged me to do something, and I didn't finish in time, and I lost a card. And so the audience started to really connect on this idea of a challenge. And that video did pretty well. And I was like, what would happen if I combined the idea of a challenge with a binder? So I did a video where I tried to complete a set of Pokemon. There's usually a couple hundred cards in new sets. I tried to complete it in 24 hours. That was the idea of the video. And it was already kind of half complete. I was just building this binder, but I said, I'm going to give myself 1 day to finish this. And I filmed it. And I said if I didn't finish this, I'd have to give the whole binder away. I ended up finishing it, and that video saw 5 million views in a month.
Whoa. Wow.
And the retention graph was flat right from the beginning. And I was like, holy moly, we just landed on something. So I created more of those kinds of videos. Finish a set in 1 hour, finish a set in 48 hours, all these different sets that were coming out. And that's become the bread and butter of this channel, to the tune now where it is at 1.85 million subscribers within 4 years. It got to 100,000 subscribers in 11 months, by the way. And it's just continuing to sail. And it has provided a mid-5-figure income now out of nothing. Which is pretty cool. I also have gotten to the point where I now have a relationship with the Pokemon company. They send me stuff before anybody else gets it because they know my reach. There are a lot of celebrities and people who watch my channel that I would have never connected with earlier. UFC fighters, NBA players, NFL players. They're all youngins who grew up with Pokemon and like now want my channel as a part of their entertainment sequence. And brand deals with TikTok, eBay, other companies that have a lot of money to spend. So I'm charging anywhere between 25 and 50 grand for a 60-second ad in a video. It's insane. It's more profitable than anything I've ever done before. And that's just the long form channel. I wanted to experiment with short form. I hadn't really nailed the short form game. on my entrepreneurial stuff. But I knew that, inherently the pack of Pokemon was something that could retain people. But I wanted to create like a 60-second show. And I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna practice what I preach with lean learning. I want to create a video every day, and I'm gonna do it for 60 days. That's it. And whatever happens after that happens. And I hypothesized that even if I didn't get a lot of views after 60 days, it would be a worthwhile experiment. I could learn some new skills and I could just understand things a little bit better. But that was my complete focus for 60 days starting in July of 2024. So this was about 400 days ago. 30 days into this experiment, I wasn't getting a lot of views. 300 to 1,000 views per video, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot for short form video people. However, even though I was 30 days in and the views weren't there, a couple things did happen. Number one, my editing time for these videos, because it was only me, I wanted it to be all me, and my face isn't on it. I didn't link to it from any other channels. I siloed it just to see what would happen. My editing time went from 45 minutes to 12 minutes per video. So already I'm gaining something skills. I was able to 3x my productivity. And then I started batch processing these now. I could do 3 or 4 in one day and save a lot of time. I had 30 pieces of data. So like in the long form channel, I started to understand, what do people like? What do people don't like? Normally, I would have probably given up by then. Oh, see, I gave it a shot. I tried it for 30 days. It's not working. Let me move on to something else. But remember, I said 60 days. That is what I can control. I can control showing up, hitting record, and publishing daily. That is under my control. I can't control the views. So this will be successful whether or not I get views if I get to day 60. I'm counting uploads, not likes, as my buddy Alex says. And so day 35 comes around. One of those videos hits 750,000 views. It just explodes everything. And right now, we are at 402 days into this. I'm still going because it's been very successful. We are averaging 10 million views a day. We have hit 4.5 billion views across platforms. So it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, it's TikTok. I'm also distributing them now, but literally the same video on Facebook and now even on Snapchat. And so we should be approaching about 15 million views per day very, very soon across those platforms, which is insane. I can't even wrap my head around how many people that is watching me. It's gotten to the point now where I will be at Starbucks ordering something, and a person behind me will be like, "Hey, are you the Pokemon guy? Because I recognize that voice."
Yeah.
It's gotten crazy, and because these videos there's so much about this. Like, I wish I could talk about it longer, but like the videos are filmed with my hands opening the packs, and I have kind of weird looking thumbs. They're kind of like Megan Fox club thumbs. I call them Nintendo thumbs, and like it's to the point now where, well, first of all, I was very self-conscious about it once people pointed it out. They're like, "Your thumbs are weird, gross." But I kind of like embraced it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I teach my own. It's like, embrace your weird. And I started calling them Diglett thumbs. Diglett is a Pokemon that kind of looks like my thumb.
Got it.
And now that's because, like, I go to conventions now and I'm recognized and I sign autographs. Most of the cards I'm signing are Diglett Pokemon cards because of my thumbs.
Got it. Yeah, there you
And
go.
they even say, like, let me see they're even like, let me see your thumbs just to make sure it's you. It is you. It's just like such a crazy thing to be now recognized. And I have this jingle at the beginning of the videos that kind of became a meme and became world famous. It's, should I open it or should I keep it sealed? And like there was a DJ who put that clip from my song into their rave in front of 50,000 people. And it's just gone gangbusters. I got invited by the Detroit Lions to open a pack of cards on their field at Ford Field before a game last year because of this. The opportunities are growing, and it's just wild. So I wanted to share that because, again, I didn't know anything about short form, but I gave myself a period of time to learn it. Every video was an opportunity for me to learn. By publishing daily, I had, like, imagine a year. If you're publishing daily, you have 365 opportunities to learn. If you're publishing weekly, you only have 52 opportunities to learn. And yes, perfectionism can get in the way, but you just have to get good enough to get to a point of learning. You don't have to be perfect to make better next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, lean learning in action, and I'm walking the walk.
That is awesome. That's so cool. I could do a whole episode just on that and just on YouTube and how to build a successful YouTube channel. But you put out all this content. So with that in mind, other than those things, you have a ton going on. I don't know how you have time to even do this podcast interview, but
No, it's my pleasure.
But what people want to connect with you, learn from you, whatever, where else should they go online to check out your content?
Yeah, I mean, Pat Flynn on most social media channels, and smartpassiveincome.com is the sort of business stuff that we teach and case studies that we share. But if you're interested in the Pokemon thing, Deep Pocket Monster is the long form channel on YouTube. You can check that out. And I also, to the point of, leaning into these communities and these things I'm doing, I have an event that I hold for the Pokemon community now. I found that there was no event that really I would want to go to, and so I just decided to build it myself. And so it's called Card Party. Our fourth one is coming up in Seattle this year. Our last one was in June in Tampa. We had 5,500 people at an event, Pokemon nerds and creators just nerding out. And it was a blast. So everything I teach in my book, Superfans, about building community, like, again, I don't just talk the talk. I'm doing what I'm saying, and I'm showing you, hopefully leading by example. So, Chris, this was such a pleasure. And I'm happy you gave me a space to nerd out on some of this stuff today.
Yeah, man, I can tell that it lights you up. So that's really cool. Again, the book is Lean Learning. Really loved it. And I will say one of my kind of learning hacks is when you're pressed for time, or if you're just trying to get through something quickly, when I read books, I will read them and listen to them. So I'll like read a chapter, listen to a chapter, because it's like I can read in the morning and get my truck and listen to the next one. Yeah. And it was fun listening to you in this because you'll be like, hey, I'm just as an aside here, I'm gonna go off script and talk about this kind of story in the middle of it, which was kind of nice. It was like I was, we were just having a chat, having a beer or something like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Actually, asking the author to come on your podcast is a pretty good hack too, I think, for learning. That's actually really smart.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Pat. Well, thanks so much for the time and the insight and everything. Really appreciate it, man. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to On the X, the official podcast of the Navy SEAL Foundation and an Ironclad original series. Learn more at NavySealFoundation.org or text On the X to 60104. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.